things that I've worked with very intimately through my implicit revelations case study is the concept of independently developed memory centers and unique or independent activity in the neurobiological social engagement system of the unconscious body-mind. And I want to give a very tangible, realistic example of this actually happening in real life, and how simple and innocent and common this type of thing can be, but how profound and potentially intense or dramatic or expansive the effects can be. And I share this so that we can each have greater awareness of what's happening inside of us and what might be happening inside of other people, so that this expanded awareness can assist us in validating unique experiences. All personal experiences are unique. That's what makes them personal, is that they're unique. And so we can have more power to be there for parts of ourselves and to influence the wiring and the structures of the body-mind that navigates and regulates our existence from the inside out. Okay, let's imagine a 12 or 13-year-old girl. And let's say that this young gal was homeschooled most of her life. And then she went to like a bigger school for the first time. And so she's already, preteen, so you're going through that like kind of awkward like shifting from being like your family's child to being like your own person around peers and like finding yourself and growing up, that pre-adolescent stuff that we all go through. Some of us go through more than once when you're healing childhood trauma and progressing through adolescence multiple times in your life, because you're healing your brain that stopped its neurodevelopment when you were little. That never happened. It happened. Okay, so let's just imagine in this example, and you can tweak the details so that maybe it fits something that you went through or could imagine someone going through. Okay, so feel free to tweak the details and just use this as a framework to understand how this concept can actually happen for realsies in like normal life stuff. But then like we look at like the neuroscience of psychology and like, make sense of it in like a brand new way sort of deal. So let's imagine, right, that this girl, 13 years old or so, middle school time frame-ish. And she has like this pretty cool group of friends, but they're cool friends. And so you have to like, make sure that you're cool enough to keep up, because they're the cool friends. They're not just necessarily your casual friends who you naturally click with. They're the cool kids. So you have to make sure that you're also a cool kid so that you can continue to be a part of their circle sort of vibe, right? And so 13-year-old, young girl and figuring things out or whatever. And this young girl meets a cute boy, right? And they're talking, And then that cute boy sends this sweet, young, innocent girl a song. And he's like, I wrote this for you. And in that moment, the experience of social engagement is profoundly fulfilling attachment needs. Someone that you're crushing on, that you've been talking with for a while and hanging out in group settings and talking on your own one-on-one, sends you this like really cute, romantic, fluffy song and says that they wrote it for you, right? And you're like 13, right? In that moment, social engagement is profoundly fulfilling these attachment needs. That girl feels seen and loved and treasured and appreciated and celebrated and supported and connected with vulnerability and closeness and a sense of connection, and feels respected and embraced and just, recognized. And there's this great sense of attachment need fulfillment in that experience of social engagement, right? Okay? And so she's just like swooning, and she rereads the song, and she's like, oh my God, this is so amazing. Oh my God, he's so cute. You can just imagine a 13-year-old girl being like, yeah, right? Okay? And it's just example. And again, feel free to tweak the details so that this type of scenario resonates with your understanding of these concepts, right? And then a few days or a week or two or something later, through a series of semi-unfortunate events. It was fortunate because the truth came out, but unfortunate because it broke her heart. That teenage girl, that 13-year-old little girl who's still pretty innocent and figuring things out and trying to keep up with the cool kids, and she's never really talked to boys before, right? Like, it's this newfound ground of growing up and everything. She finds out that boy had actually sent that song to a bunch of different girls and told all of them that he wrote it for them specifically. Playa! Okay? But, of course, keep this in, like, an understanding of, like, they're kids. You know what I mean? Like they're kids. None of them really know what they're doing. They all have attachment needs that need to be fulfilled. And that boy probably did that because his attachment needs weren't fulfilled. And those girls all probably reacted the way that they did because they were looking to have their attachment needs fulfilled, and it was all happening through social engagement, right? They're kids, okay? You're not really thinking about the neuroscience of psychology or attachment development at that point, right? It's happening, but you're not thinking about it, okay? And so then that girl, that 13-year-old girl, our protagonist in this saga, right? She finds that out, and there's like this moment of like, let's say like sitting in her kitchen or something, and she like reads the text where like, like the news is broken, like one of her friends like, dude, this happened, and then like it's confirmed, and the boy's texting, I'm so sorry, like I didn't mean to hurt you, and all of the other friends in the group are like, don't give him the time of day, like you deserve so much better, and that girl's just like heartbroken and confused, right? And so let's say she's like sitting on her kitchen floor reading those texts, okay? In that moment, this is just like mind-blowingly profound to be able to actually understand what could be happening in that singular instance. There's a lot happening. And yeah, sure, there's a lot happening, in the mind and in the, the mental body, the emotional body, the, physical body. The hormones are already nuts. You're 13, right? Like, there's a lot already happening. But there's, like, a whole other layer of what's actually happening. And I only know about this and these concepts because of my work with the Implicit Revelations case study. In all of my years of research and reading and talking with other people and other teachers and other, whatnot in these areas, the stuff I'm sharing here was never taught to me, which is why I'm grateful for the chance to share it here. The stuff I'm sharing here was never taught to me. Everything I share here, I piece together by studying what is there and then exploring experiences of the human life from the inside out and connecting the dots. So everything I'm sharing here is completely self-taught. I didn't learn the application of these ideas from outside of me, and it's an honor to share them because they apply to all of us. It makes sense of the human experience in just such a beneficial way that can really bring light to what's happening deeper within. And the more that we know, the more opportunity we have to shift it and to be there for these parts of ourselves and to be there for the body-mind wiring that carries this information and affects us far beyond awareness, okay? And again, of course, this is just one example, but apply the concept to any scenario in your life from childhood to, a few weeks ago. The general concepts, okay? We have these attachment needs. We're constantly socially engaging with other people. things happen that are good and wonderful, and things happen that feel not so good and wonderful. And there's a body mind that is gathering information. And that information is navigating and regulating our own existence from the inside out. And there are parts of us beyond awareness that are affected by that data, are affected by that that information. I was just noticing that in the video. Okay. So in that moment, the 13-year-old girl, just in this one example, hypothetical story, that 13-year-old girl sinks down to the kitchen floor, just heartbroken, crushed. There was such an emotional response and attachment to that boy and to the fact that he wrote a song for her. And then when the source of that attachment need fulfillment was ripped apart, it was like, nope, it's not real, it's not there for you. The attachment needs weren't being met through social engagement anymore. And in that moment, there are two important realities of the body-mind that we need to explore to understand this and to further bring light and awareness and illumination to how social engagement affects us, how attachment needs and attachment development affect us, how the body-mind gathers information, how there can be independently developed memory centers, how there can be unique or independent alternate styles of activity in the neurobiological social engagement system of the unconscious body-mind, and how this can affect personal experience in subtle ways or dramatic ways, but it's happening to millions and billions of people on the planet every day. Okay? So in that moment, the first thing is that the body-mind is gathering information about how it feels and how it moves. And if it is feeling heartbroken, crushed, devastated, disappointed, angry, lonely, because there was all this social engagement that was fulfilling attachment needs, and then that was all just torn apart in an instant. Lonely, devastated, crushed, sad, angry, all of it, disappointed. And then there's also this sense of wow, maybe I'm not worthy of having somebody write me a song, because that didn't happen, but I thought it did. I thought, wow, I'm really worth someone writing a song for. You know what I mean? And especially when you're younger and the body-mind's still gathering data. So the body-mind's gathering information about how it feels and how it moves. And so there's all these unpleasant feelings happening in that moment. And again, this is a singular moment in time. Do you know how many singular moments in time the human encounters in their life? In a year, in a decade, in 2 decades, in 5 decades, you know how many moments like this are being gathered by the body-mind so that it has more information about how to navigate and regulate its own existence. Okay? So the body-mind is gathering all this data about how it feels. And then the body-mind is gathering all this data about how it moves. Okay? In this example, that 13-year-old girl sank to the kitchen floor. Just melted to the floor, slouched over and sitting on the ground, just devastated. Okay? And the body-mind is remembering how it moves. The body-mind is remembering that feeling of just sinking to the floor, just helpless and crushed. Okay? The body-mind remembers how it feels and how it moves. And in that moment, even though it was only a moment, it wasn't this exact instant happened for a year on repeat or anything. It was a moment. And all the intensity passed in a few weeks. It was just a moment. But it had enough power to affect independently developed memory centers and unique activity in the neurobiological social engagement system that actually affected choices and emotions and responses and behaviors 10 years later. Okay? 10 years later, the body-mind was using data about how it felt and how it moved from that incident, but it was happening unconsciously. The self had no idea that automated projections of behaviors and perceptions and emotions and responses and habits and choices were actually coming from these experiences, this being one of them, from 10 years ago. Okay? Really, really profound stuff. The second thing we need to explore here in this example is how the different roles of the neurobiological social engagement system responded to this moment of experience in relation with their specific navigational priorities. Relation with their specific navigational priorities. Okay? And again, this is like profound stuff. You can take out a notebook and a pen if you want to jot some stuff down and then use it to like piece together your own introspective insights about existence. So firstly, if you are taking notes, I'm always taking mental notes. The body mind is gathering data about how it feels and how it moves. Every emotion and every movement, posture, where and how the eyes are looking, what the hands are doing, how the legs are moving. You know, are you like walking slow and confident? Are you walking really slow and sluggish? Are you like walking really fast and frantic? Or are you walking really fast and excited? Or are you, is your shoulders slunched in? Or are you like standing tall and proud? And are your eyes like looking around everywhere in excitement? Or are your eyes darting around in fear? Are your eyes really, really still and just like a glazed out sense of boredom? Are your eyes really still in a sense of peace and relaxation? These are all movements of the body that are being recorded in navigational patterns beyond awareness. And every emotion and every movement, every feeling and every action pattern are being recorded. And then the second thing we're exploring in this example is what happens when roles within the neurobiological social engagement system respond differently or in their own unique way in relation with their specific subconscious navigational priority. Okay? So there's the role of emotional intimacy. And in that moment of experience, even though there was all this heartbreak, the emotional intimacy role just wanted to be closer with that dude. Just wanted to be closer with that dude. Because there was this sense of emotional intimacy. And so the role of emotional intimacy didn't actually care that there was like this heartbreak and this devastation. The emotional intimacy only cares about emotional intimacy. So the emotional intimacy role of the body mind, of this neurobiological social engagement system that's affecting navigation beyond awareness. Oh my God, I'm so hyped up right now. This is like hashtag Dharma. It's so amazing to understand it in this way. The emotional intimacy role did not care about the disruption of attachment needs. The emotional intimacy role says, my job is emotional intimacy. And so the navigation of the emotional intimacy role said, I want to keep approaching this dude and just be close with him. I want to listen to his apology. And I want to respond to it. And I want to forgive him. And I want to still be intimately close with him emotionally. And the emotional intimacy role was also connecting with the other people in the group who were saying that they were sorry that he had hurt this girl. And the emotional intimacy role said, yes, I'm going to connect with all these people and accept their emotional fulfillment of being there for me and understanding the pain. But I'm also going to approach this dude and stay emotionally intimate with him because that's my job, is emotional intimacy. That's what I do. That's what I navigate. So yes, I'm going to navigate it and I'm going to keep feeding on this emotional intimacy with this dude, even though he did something not cool. Okay? Then there's the role of emotional well-being. And the role of emotional well-being said, I need to make sure that we're in a state of emotional well-being. And this dude is not supporting emotional well-being. We need to shut this down. This dude's got to go. We've got to shut this down. We got to build a wall up. We got to say enough is enough. We have to cut off the emotional intimacy in order to sustain our emotional well-being. So we need to cut this off, accept the support of friends, but also build boundaries, because clearly this group has stuff going on and whatever, like within this one singular group. This dude had sent this song to several people, and the cool kids, I don't know, anyway. and so emotional well-being says pull back, this is not the place where there is emotional well-being being met. And so already we have 2 different roles out of over a dozen. There's over a dozen different roles in this particular system we're discussing. There's a lot of different ways to describe the systems of the body mind because it is so complex. So this is just one of the systems. Other systems include self-associations and the way that the self associates with all components of reality based on self-associations, which is an original concept I've cultivated through my implicit revelations case study. There's the explicit-implicit connectivity, fact, feeling, conscious, unconscious memory, sensation, and autobiographical narrative, explicit implicit connectivity and relationships, and how that connects through the brain hemispheres and the different lobes and regions of each brain hemisphere. There's the abstract associations, and how the body mind stores information in relation with the abstract associations of every experiential element. So there's a lot of different systems to describe the body mind and the information in it and how it's organized and how that's affecting reality from the inside out. And so the neurobiological social engagement system is just one of many, many different types of systems to describe the body mind and its information, okay? And this particular concept is something that kind of branches from the polyvagal theory, and something that I've connected the pieces of that I did not study from the polyvagal theory, but connected on my own. It might be in there. I never read about it. And reading Stephen Porter's books and Stanley Rosenberg's books and some other stuff about the polyvagal theory and all the videos that were watched before I can remember. But this particularly is something that I pieced together, is that within the polyvagal theory, there's these different branches of the autonomic nervous system, and they correlate with this very different energetic activity. And this can link with something like social engagement, where when you're in a state of regulation, you're socially engaged. And when you're in a state of dysregulation, high energy or low energy, then you're socially disengaged or in a stress response of some kind, okay? So that's where this idea started, was from the polyvagal theory. But then something else that I kind of, the concept that grew, is that based on these states of activity and the roles of the neurobiological social engagement system that are linked with different styles of autonomic nervous system activity, which are also connected with other styles of brain-body regulation, they each correlate with a specific memory center that has developed. A specific memory center that has developed. And so then this different data isn't just allowing you to be socially engaged or disengaged or regulated or dysregulated, but it's actually pulling completely different information from body-mind navigational patterns that are projecting interpretations of reality for different parts of the self. And this is where the concept of unique orders comes in. And this is explored in thesis 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 of my Implicit Revelations case study. You can download a free introductory playbook that explores all of it. It's over 100 pages, and it is beyond magical. I refer to it all of the time because the concepts are mind-blowingly accurate, and they were created before I was the me that I feel like I am now. And to have written that at a time of great challenge, and to refer back to it and see how accurate it is and how applicable it is to me even now continuously in my personal journey and in my work with client call sessions and on the courses and stuff that I create and everything, the validity of this information is like mind-blowingly accurate and helpful. I literally refer to it on a regular basis and use the insights on it daily. Daily. So please download it. It's a gift of love from my heart to yours. It is amazing. Very helpful. But thesis 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 explore unique orders. Unique orders. Kind of like a unicorn, but more magical and applicable to the human experience. Unique order instead of disorder. Unique order. Not a disorder. Unique order. Unique order. It's unique order of the neurobiological social engagement system of the unconscious body-mind, where there are independently developed memory centers that activate in alternate and unique ways and provide different types of navigation and regulation to different parts of the self. And in modern day perspectives, this can sometimes be described as borderline personality disorder, other personality disorders, dissociative disorders, traumatic stress disorders, structural dissociation. And most of the time, though, it doesn't fall under a descriptor. You're just experiencing alternate projections of reality based on alternate styles of stimulus, alternate settings of social engagement, alternate styles of your brain, your body regulating and projecting interpretations of reality, including how you orient with your own self. And as we'll find out as we explore the rest of this example, this can happen to anybody. It doesn't have to be this severe, dramatic, traumatic event as you're a young child and this like profound disruption of attachment development that's like obvious and blatant and you're like struggling with that experience your whole life. Yes, that can happen. And even that, though, if there's something big and you're young enough, it could be suppressed and you might have all these issues gradually develop that you don't actually know what's underlying the cause, okay? So that can happen, and that does happen. And I deeply understand that experience. It can also happen in very subtle ways that don't seem like a big deal, okay? Don't seem like a big deal. Verbal or emotional abuse is a great example of it, where it's not a big deal because it wasn't physical, okay? And so it can really happen to anybody. And it does happen a lot. And at this point in our evolution, that's just a part of the human experience, which is why it's important that we bring light to it and then know how to be there for ourselves and allow future generations to evolve beyond it so that this is no longer just a normal thing that happens to a lot of people. It's something of the past. Okay, so in this example, okay, just to recap and bring it back in. There's this young 13-year-old girl talking to this cute boy in a group of cool kids. Young boy writes a song. She's like swooning, and then finds out that song was just kind of written, and he said this to like a bunch of different girls. Like, I wrote this just for you, baby. And she was crushed and heartbroken. And now the body mind is gathering information about how it feels and how it moves in relation with attachment, well-being, and social engagement. And now the roles of the neurobiological social engagement system are actually responding in different ways because of their different navigational priorities. So emotional intimacy is like, yes, I'm going to still be emotionally intimate with this dude. And then emotional well-being is like, heck no, we pulling back. That is not a place of emotional well-being. Okay? And then there's all these different roles, and they all have different navigational priorities. And when there's a disruption of attachment needs being fulfilled in any moment for any reason, but especially when it comes from any experience of social engagement, a disruption of attachment needs being fulfilled in any experience of social engagement, I forgot what I was going to say. If there's any experience of the attachment needs not being met, then the different navigational roles are going to respond in different ways. When attachment needs are fulfilled, then everything's on the same page and everything's flowing really harmoniously. And they're like, yeah, all of our attachment needs are met. So yeah, emotional intimacy, yes. Emotional well-being, yes. Physical intimacy, physical well-being, rest and restitution, mutual support, cooperation, all going great. Stress responses, not activated at all. Everything's connected and flowing and in harmony and balance and equilibrium within all of the different roles in these different systems, okay? Any moment, even a singular moment that is seemingly small and insignificant. Nothing in life is insignificant. It's all profound, okay? Blinking is profound. Everything is profound when you really look at it. So there's no such thing as something that's insignificant because it's all, when you really look at it, it's all a miracle. It's all a big, giant miracle. Being alive is a big, giant, freaking miracle. Any moment can cause this information to be like, I'm going to respond in this way, and I'm going to respond in this way, and I'm going to gather this data, and I'm going to store this data, and I'm going to look at it this way, and I'm going to look at it this way. And then all these navigational patterns are like, I'm going over here, I'm going over here, okay, see ya, bye! And then they're not connected, and the information they carry is different. And it all comes back to the content and connectivity of this data. Content and connectivity. What information is in the body-mind, and how is that information connecting and collaborating within itself? If you're taking notes, write that down. What information is stored in the body-mind, and how is that information connecting, collaborating, and communicating within itself? Content and connectivity of the body-mind is what we're looking at. Okay, so then all these different roles are responding in different ways. All these different roles are responding in different ways. And that's just like one example. Then there's like parent-child bonding from the perspective of the caregiver, the parent, and parent-child bonding from the perspective of the child. Okay, in that moment, the inner child, who's not a part of emotional intimacy in the way we think of it when we're grown-ups, whatever that means. But, you know, as a teenager and as an adult, emotional intimacy is looked at a little differently than emotional intimacy when you're a child, okay? And so parent-child bonding from the perspective of the child holds that more childlike version of emotional intimacy, where you just want to be, you know, taken care of, not necessarily on an equal plane of intimacy at a higher level, okay? And so in that sort of moment, the inner child's then there and is like, you know, I just need to be like held right now. I just need to be held. I just need to be held. Someone just hold me. And then the parent-child bonding from the perspective of the parent is like, okay, I need to like, you know, take care of everyone and everything. So let me take care of this boy by being like, oh, it's okay. Like, I understand. Like, let me care for his attachment needs, because that's what the role of parent-child bonding from the perspective of the parent or caregiver does within the neurobiological social engagement system, data inside of the body-mind with a navigational priority, okay? And so when you see somebody just constantly taking care of other people, oftentimes it's coming from really intense activity that doesn't necessarily have balance with everything else, of parent-child bonding from the perspective of the parent, because that navigational priority is, let me just make sure everyone else is taken care of. Okay? And of course that can manifest differently depending on how that was modeled. And sometimes it's an exact copy of a parent caregiver, or sometimes it's a polar opposite. So it can manifest differently, of course. But then in this example, the parent-child bonding from the perspective of the parent or caregiver role, that's the name of the role, that role has a navigational priority to make sure everyone else is taken care of without necessarily caring about the self, according to this particular like imprint. Sometimes, like I said, they'll have different imprints, and that won't always be the case, but a lot of times that's the general navigational pattern that's kind of stuck into that role. That's how it's intended to be wired to an extent. So then that data is like, oh, let me make sure that this boy's emotions are taken care of. Let me make sure that all these other friends' emotions are taken care of. Okay? And then the parent-child bonding from the perspective of the child, there's like this young child inside that's like, somebody please just hold me. But in this example, because there's independent activity in these roles instead of connectivity, independent activity rather than connectivity, the role of parent-child bonding from the perspective of the parent or the caregiver is busy tending to the needs of others. And then the parent-child bonding from the perspective of the child is here like, somebody please take care of my needs. Okay, if there was deep connection, then those needs would be met from within without prioritizing other people first and without neglecting what's happening deeper within, intentionally or unintentionally, consciously or unconsciously. And then it gets even more complex because all of those roles have certain types of connections with the nervous system and brain-body activity. They have different types of information in the autonomic nervous system. And then there's stress responses that start to get activated beyond awareness. The attached stress response is like, oh my God, I need to quickly latch on to someone or something to make sure that my attachment needs get met. And so that attached stress response might be over there with the emotional intimacy, like, yeah, let's just stay emotionally intimate with this dude. It's okay if he didn't meet our attachment needs that one time. Maybe he'll meet our attachment needs the next time. Okay? And then there's the fight stress response. It's like, how dare you? How dare you? And then there's anger. And then there's the flight stress response that's like, oh my God, my heart's racing. I should probably just run away from this situation altogether. But how do you run away from something that's happening inside of you? Right? And then there's the freeze stress response, and the body's just like, I'm stuck. I'm trapped. I sank to the kitchen floor, right? In our example, this teenage girl, when she found this out, she sank to the kitchen floor. I'm here. I sunk to the kitchen floor. I have this phone in my hand where I'm seeing these texts from people, and that's it. I'm stuck. I can't move. I can't breathe. I can't, nothing. And then potentially there might be even a fold stress response, which is dysregulation at the other end of the nervous system. But a fold stress response could be, oh my God, I'm devastated. I'm so depressed. I'm going to go curl up in my bed and literally curl into a ball and hide in the darkness and just drown in my sorrow. And that's it. That's the end. And then, in a really severe instance, which is not relevant to this particular example, but in a really severe instance, there could be the blackout stress response. And this particular lingo is from the spectrum of traumatic stress, which is part of my implicit revelations gift package, which you can acquire through my online business, implicit revelations gift package. If any of this concept that we're talking about in this video interests you, that is a must-have. It goes through uniquarters and terminology for unique experiences of dissociation, traumatic response, psychosis, stuff like that. It goes through the spectrum of stress responses and everything that I'm describing here. And I think there was one more thing that I went through. I think there's 4 different PDFs, but they really go through and provide really helpful information for anyone who is experiencing a uniquarter. That could be in an umbrella category of described or perceived as a personality disorder, which is just uniquarter. It's not a disorder. There's profound order happening. It's just not commonly understood. It's profound freaking order. The order of the body-mind that's navigating life is profound beyond anything you can freaking imagine. But a personality disorder, uniquarter, or a dissociative disorder, it's not a disorder. It's not. It's literally the most profound order of the body-mind you could possibly imagine. It's just not understood, etc. So check out the Implicit Revelations gift package if you are living with a uniquarter or you know someone who is. I think it could be very helpful. But back to what we're talking about. You can find that, by the way, with all the offerings and all my different Loving Liberation launch pads and course creations. I digress. But in this example, yeah, all the attach stress response, flight, fight, freeze, fold, and blackout. Okay, so then we have roles of social disengagement, and we have roles of social engagement. And out of over a dozen different roles, all of them, nearly all of them, are responding to that singular moment in different ways, with different suggestions about how to navigate life. Different suggestions about how to interpret the navigation of life in that moment. Different suggestions about how to navigate the self in that moment. Different suggestions about how to navigate feelings and movements in that movement. Okay, when stuff like this happens, every time there is a disruption of attachment needs, this happens. Every time there's a disruption of attachment need fulfillment through social engagement, this exact process happens. And it could literally be like a 5-minute experience that happens one time, and that's it. And then that incident is over. But when it happens again and again and again in totally different scenarios, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be related events. But any moment of disrupted fulfillment of attachment needs, including but not limited to experiences of social engagement with other people, the body mind is gathering data about its feelings and its movements, and all of these dozen plus roles in the NeuroBiological social engagement system are responding in different ways. And every time this happens, they gather different content and have decreased connectivity with each other. Every single time there is a moment of disrupted attachment need fulfillment, including but not limited to social engagement, these different roles in the neurobiological social engagement system of the body mind that have different navigational priorities. And navigation includes thoughts, feelings, habits, behaviors, decision makings, approach avoidance tendencies, instinctive capacities for choice making, emotional responses, verbal responses, physical responses, perceptions, narrative, dialogue, stories, images, sensations, somatic feelings, bodily responses, posture. All of those are types of navigation, okay? Then these roles are gathering different content than one another with decreased connectivity with one another. And so when they have compatible content and total connectivity, then all this information is communicating with each other and navigating life in a unified way. But as soon as there's decreased connectivity and they have different information of content, then there's independently developed memory centers, and they get further apart, and they look and feel so different because their content is different. And then when they're activated, this is going to navigate life in one way, and this will navigate life in a completely different way. And then you might be, in this example, this hypothetical example, that girl is 13 years old in this moment. And again, like I said, like the emotionalness of it dissolved within a couple of days, within a couple of weeks, everything was back to normal, and you go on with life, and there's, you know, other moments of unfulfilled attachment needs through social engagement to look forward to. Just kidding. There's more to life than that. But, you know, in our example, it happens. Okay. So then let's say, okay, that happened when that girl was 13. Let's say 10 years later, that experience is like so long forgotten. It's like ridiculous. Like if you even mention it, you'd be like, I don't even know if I remember that. It's so irrelevant. It's such a long time ago. It was such a small deal. It was nothing. Okay? But things like that, not exactly like that, but moments of unfulfilled attachment needs through experiences of social engagement continued happening throughout adolescence and throughout the unfoldings of stuff. And so then 10 years later, this girl's, in her early 20s or whatever, in this hypothetical example. then she's interacting with people, and these roles of the neurobiological social engagement system are navigating life in different ways. And maybe you're approaching a cute guy, okay? Or, whatever person that you are romantically attracted to. In that moment, the emotional intimacy role is going to be like, yes, let's be emotionally intimate. The emotional well-being role is going to be like, yeah, not so sure that's a good idea. Have we looked at our track record here? Like, when we do the emotional intimacy thing, the emotional well-being goes down the hill, so we're going to go this way. We're going to navigate it differently. We're going to drop some boundaries. Emotional intimacy is like, yes, I'm all in. Hi, baby. And then emotional well-being is like, let's take this slow. And then parent-child bonding from the perspective of the child is going to be like, I just need to be held. I just need to be held. Parent-child bonding from the perspective of the parent or the caregiver is going to be like, let me make sure everyone else's needs are tended to. And the way that they connect with that person might be less of an emotional intimacy way, and maybe even less of an emotional well-being of like, yeah, I'm open and, we'll explore this, and maybe more of like a, yeah, let me nourish you. Like a parent or caregiver might secretly do. And then we've got the attached stress response, which is like, I just need to grab onto something and make sure that source is going to fulfill my attachment needs. And then there's the fight stress response where like the littlest thing comes up and then that gets activated, and then all of a sudden you go from being like, I'm emotionally intimate, to like, oh my God, how dare you, flaming fire and boundaries from the edges of my soul, and can get, angry responses or, distance from them or whatever. And then the flight stress response could come in, and depending on if it's activated on its own or in coupled activation with something else, there's different responses. If the flight stress response in this example is activated independently, then the body mind's like, let's navigate this by fleeing the situation. But if the flight stress response is activated with the physical intimacy social engagement role, then there could just be all of this intense energy from dysregulation coupled with like sexual arousal or something in relation with the role of physical intimacy. Because remember, these roles connect with styles of navigation and regulation. And then you might get something that was also talked about in the implicit revelations case study, and something that is very common with uniquorters that originate from any form of sexual trauma, is that there's hypersexuality or inappropriate sexual tendencies in one way or another, whether that's affecting the way that you dress and like act and present yourself, or choices that lead to being with certain people in certain ways. Over 80% of decision making comes from unconscious memories. And so how navigation and regulation are operating the body mind, especially if we're not aware of these realities, is going to decide stuff for us until we realize that, oh wait, like most of this is happening automatically, and I need to reclaim my power like ASAP. Okay? And so then there's all these different roles of social engagement and social disengagement, roles with different navigational priorities that are connecting with different styles of navigation and regulation beyond awareness, and they'll keep navigating life in these unique ways. And this can disrupt implicit well-being. And implicit well-being is an umbrella term that I use in my implicit revelations case study to describe mental health, emotional health, behavioral or action pattern or habitual health, relational health, and even spiritual health, and just the health and relationship of just connecting with life itself, or whatever you personally resonate with. And so to bring this all together with the most profound example of this, 10 years after that incident, that young girl grew up to be a young adult and is sitting in her place on her cell phone, texting. And she's texting this really sweet, sexy, sassy note that is clearly addressed in like a flirtatious manner. And she writes it out and she copies it. Hey, kitty, no. She copies it and pastes it and sends it to 20 different people. The body mind had accumulated action patterns from its learned experiences of attachment, well-being through social engagement. And it had started with that experience 10 years prior, where like a 13-year-old boy had written a love song and told multiple girls, including her, that he had written it just for her. And it turned out that wasn't true. And it was like a, if you can't beat him, join him, sort of like body-mind navigational response, basically. And in this hypothetical example, to bring light to how the body-mind gathers data about feelings and movements and navigating existence in relation with attachment well-being through social engagement, and how the roles of the neurobiological social engagement system navigate and regulate existence, and how they can do that in different, alternate, independent ways if the navigational priorities aren't navigating and regulating existence as one unified system. Then that girl is 23 in this example, 10 years after being 13. And she writes this flirtatious text and she copies and pastes it and sends it to like 10, 20 different people. Okay? The body mind is gathering data. And the ways that that data affects us is profound. And a lot of times we don't actually know why we are doing the things that we do. We don't actually know why we're feeling the way that we're feeling. We don't actually know why we're responding the way that we're responding. Okay? And so up until a point, for a lot of people in the world anyway, not necessarily everyone, some beings are more evolved. Good for you. But up until a point, usually the body mind is navigating and regulating existence unconsciously. The self doesn't know about all this activity. And the body mind is dictating life without the self interjecting consciously. But then we reach a point in our evolution and we're like, wait a second. Is this just who I am, or is there more to me? Am I going to live my life forever with these habits or these emotions or these responses or these choice-making tendencies or these perceptions or these stories or whatever it is in the body mind, okay? I don't know if you can hear that, but there's coyotes howling in the distance. That's so cool. Man, they are celebrating. Good job, you guys. Good job. I don't want to know. Okay. And so then we reach a point where the self becomes more conscious of itself. And the self starts to interject its power into the body mind so that this stuff isn't happening so unconsciously and automatic anymore. And the self then has power to influence the data stored within it and the way that it's existing and operating in each moment. And the self gets to connect deeper with itself. The self gets to reconstruct how a lifetime of experiences are stored in the body mind. The self gets to influence energetically the navigational patterns and regulatory protocols of the body mind. The self gets to intentionally and consciously and mindfully, moment by moment, day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year, the self gets to choose the information that it is going to allow the body mind to project into reality. The self is going to consciously take a stand and mindfully choose what information it is going to allow the body mind to project into reality. And then there's no longer this body-mind unconsciously navigating existence without the self really knowing what's going on, then there's this powerful, conscious self that is now intentionally sculpting the body-mind. So that instead of the body-mind automatically storing a lifetime of experiences unconsciously navigating life, the body-mind now has navigational patterns and regulatory protocols that support how the self wants to experience itself and its life. Okay, and that is the journey I am here to help with. That is the journey I am here to support. That is the journey I am here to serve as a teacher and a guide through. And my services and creations have two specific points. One is understanding the inner realities, exploring and discussing and dissecting and unveiling and revealing and introspectively exploring and expanding insight on and understanding the body-mind, its structures, the way it stores memories, explicit, implicit information, abstract associations of experiential elements, subconscious priorities of navigation, navigational priorities in the roles of the neurobiological social engagement system, self-associations and how those automating and how that automatically affects how the self associates with all components of reality, every experiential element stemming back to self-associations, data from every single year of life, navigation and regulation, and how the navigation and regulation are constantly affecting each other. Projections and interpretations of reality in every moment. How the body-mind is gathering every type of stimulus, internal and external, and how that's activating all associated data beyond awareness, and how parts of the self are experiencing those projections beyond awareness, and how stimulus can remain active for up to 72 hours, and how only a tiny % of activated thought forms in the body-mind actually become perceivable through the conscious mind. Half of what I do is bringing this understanding to these topics. The body-mind and the soul self who is experiencing life through the body-mind. The other half, and it only gets more juicy, the other half is transforming and evolving and expanding and nourishing and restoring and liberating and reclaiming power within these structures. Reunifying the self, reunifying the body-mind, fulfilling attachment needs, resculpting how a lifetime of memories are stored within them, working with consciously working with unconscious memories, which is one of my specialties. And it's one of my specialties because I spent over half a decade only being able to experience life through the acquisition and activation of unconscious memories without being able to create new conscious memories. And then for a while without being able to remember any conscious memories. So over half a decade of only being able to experience life through the acquisition and activation of unconscious memories. That's what initiated the fact that that is part of my specialty. But I experience the profoundness of this on a daily basis. Out of everything that happens, the body-mind only cares about how it feels and moves. And when you focus on nourishing that, then everything else doesn't affect you as much. Okay? So, understanding and then transforming, evolving, shape-shifting, resculpting, expanding, unifying, restoring, liberating these realities so that the self then has conscious choice about how to sculpt the navigational patterns, how to sculpt the regulatory protocols, how to connect with and reunify the self within the experience, how to intentionally infuse the content with attachment need fulfillment, and how to expand the connectivity of all of this content that happens to be flowing through trillions of energetic pathways. Okay, so it's like, it's kind of a big deal. And so if any of these topics interest you, like literally anything I talked about, including here at the end sharing like what I do and like understanding stuff and then like transforming stuff and stuff like that. If any of that interests you, I do invite you to explore my work deeper. There's lots of amazing free libraries that are really, really profound. And I do not say that lightly. The journey to creating these concepts and expressing them and sharing them so freely is like remarkable and kind of mind-blowing. And they really are just invaluable tools, like really just genuinely invaluable tools that have changed my life in profound ways, which is why I'm grateful to share them. And then if you want to dive deeper, I have 12 different styles of one-on-one sacred soul sessions, just a one-time call with me, audio or video call, depending on what the session is. They have different purposes, different styles and stuff. Inner child play for loving liberation, social soul self, mystical odyssey imaginatives, treasure mapping, roots of reality, mini marathon. Like, there's so much magic. You can explore all of them. They all have very different pieces of magic. So maybe half of them you're like, that's not for me. But then you look at a couple and you're like, that sounds really cool. Or, vice versa. And then there's also multi-month personalized pathways, 3 months, 6 months, and 1 year options for different intentions, whether it's resolving an implicit health challenge of any kind or expanding into a greater personal power embodiment regarding all of these topics unified, or progressing through a marathon to nourish attachment systems and really resculpt the entire foundation of the body mind in like a really fun way that is like the most life-changing thing you will ever possibly invest in ever. And then those are all sessions personally connecting with me. And then if you're like, man, Kristen's like cool and all, but I'd rather like do a journey on my own without having to like talk to anybody, I have a bunch of self-guided courses, and these were low-key, they changed my life. They're the only reason I'm like literally alive. like literally the reason that I'm like literally alive. Like the only reason that I can like coherently be standing here is because of what these courses have done for me. And yeah, implicit transformation and creative connections, mirror play with mirror power, restoring consciousness, self-love, liberation. There's lots of different options. There's also videos that are less of an investment, with your time and your energy and everything as well. And then there's also a really super incredibly magical merchandise store with over 100 original designs that are like really cool. So there's lots of different options if you want to dive deeper into any of these concepts, whether it's buying a sweatshirt and a mug to just have a mantra that supports you, or whether it's like a 6-month journey that we go through every week and like your whole life changes from the inside out, or something in between. If any of these topics interest you, I do invite you to explore all of the magic that I have, because low-key, saying this from a very objective space, it's life-changing to be able to understand experiences of your entire life, to be able to liberate parts of yourself from every moment of experience, even without working with past memory data, to be able to shapeshift the way the body mind thinks and feels and moves and affects your every moment of reality, to be able to connect deeper with parts of yourself that maybe you never understood, or you never fully met, or you were never able to fully connect with and be there for, or whatever it might be, whether you're aware of it or not. A lot of times we don't know about the parts of ourselves that we're not unified with. I'm going to say that again, because that needs to be its own whole video. Most of the time, we are not aware of the parts that we are not unified with of our own selves. When there are parts of ourselves that we are not unified with, we usually don't know about them. Okay? So if any of these concepts interest you, please do explore. The key theme is that every avenue is effective and enjoyable. They're really, really playful, loving, tender, nourishing, just expansive experiences, and they really create profound levels of transformation in the body-mind structures, in connection with the self, and in the way that you experience life from the inside out. You can explore all of my offerings in every single recent video description. So every time I share a video, I update the caption and express this stuff in a new way, and share the most recent links to my work and the different things. Always upgrading, always updating, always expanding. So every video description on here, the most recent ones, will share all the ways to explore my offerings. And you can connect with me through email to be like, hey, let's book a session, or hey, let's I want to order that course or whatever. And then the merchandise store, you can just buy it straight through there. And later on, there will be the ability to do it directly through the website. For now, it's through email. And yeah, it's just really profound, really life-changing. And to be able to understand how micro moments like this example, okay? Because remember, that was, a few minutes out of decades of experiences. To be able to understand how micro moments affect the body, mind, beyond awareness is the greatest implicit revelation of a lifetime. And it can really ignite and expand personal power from the inside out in a profound way, where you're able to understand your own inner realities in a fresh new light. You're able to connect deeper with parts of yourselves in a brand new way. And from that expanded awareness, you then have more power to be there for parts of yourself and influence the body-mind, reunifying the self, unifying the body-mind structures, upgrading, updating, shape-shifting the content and connectivity while reconnecting and being there for all these different parts of the self. And then to witness how those seeds that you plant and those intentions really blossoms and blooms, and your whole life can change. And then the way that you interact with yourself, with other people, with every moment of experience can improve for the better, and implicit health can improve, and the quality of experience, the fluidity of experience, the harmony, the balance, the flow, the connection, it can all just get more delicious and more wondrous, because things are happening from a space of unity from within your own being. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. Thank you for creating space to explore this divine expression of my soul. And if you feel called to, thank you for connecting with me through my offerings in my online business. And if you feel inspired, please do, the drill. If this video was helpful at all, hit the like button and the subscribe button, because your support is amazing. It's such a cheesy thing that everybody does, but it's true. It's true. If you found this information insightful or just interesting or anything positive, I do appreciate the likes and the subscribes and the positive comments, whether it's cool, thanks for sharing, bro, or wow, this is what I thought about what you said. That kind of response is really wonderful. It's really encouraging for me to receive, and with the way that these platforms and systems work, it does help my work reach more people, which would be beautiful. I would love that. So please do hit the like button and subscribe, notifications, because I'm always sharing new stuff, and feel free to leave a comment and let me know one thing that you learned that you didn't know about these ideas in general. And if you feel inspired, you can share more than one. Something or some things that you learned that you didn't know before. And something about your personal experience, whether it was something from a long time ago or something recent, that makes more sense now because of these insights. I would love to hear that. I would really love to hear that. That would be really fun to share. And please feel free to share this video with anyone who might benefit from these insights. And please explore all the free libraries and downloads. There's a lot more insight on all of these topics. And when you explore all the different stuff, you're looking at one topic from 100 different angles, and you're learning all about all of its sides, and it can really be amazing, really be of value. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. Have a beautiful and blessed day.